Welcome back to another episode of Balance Your Wealth. This week we've got a fun one. This point, most of us have watched The Office besides Nora and Adam, apparently, and cringed at Michael Scott's finance advice. So we're going to take some of the cringe-worthy moments and attempt to turn them into real, sound advice. Today we've got Shaun, Nick, Tyler, Nora, and Adam with their best attempt at bringing some actionable advice to Michael's blunders. Nick, I declare bankruptcy. Want to get us started off?
Yeah. I declare bankruptcy. That is the sage advice or lack of advice, that declaring bankruptcy verbally is not the same as actually going through with bankruptcy. And it's kind of maybe not the best way to go about settling your debts on a whim is the bankruptcy route. Like, we want to make sure that if you are in a debt hole and need help climbing out of it, there's a lot of different levers you can pull before the bankruptcy one comes into play. But just maybe think about that one more than just shouting it from the rooftops. But it makes a great scene.
My ism probably ties into that one, Nick. And it's, maybe always following your passion isn't uh, at the right time and shouldn't be your focus, is because when he was working on Threat Level to Midnight on the side and spent all that time and money, and then it flops, that could have contributed to his bankruptcy. We never fully knew if it did or not, but it could have contributed to that moment there where he freaked out. So, passions are great to have, and it may one day become, your full-time job or your career. But just make sure you're keeping your focus on, making a solid income and bringing the passion project along on the side, and not devoting too much to that side project.
And I
Yeah,
think
absolutely.
sometimes we get some of those great ideas when we're listening to experts, right? Michael Scott always had all the answers, and his management practices may not have been the best, but he sure believed in them. And that happens a lot too when we're getting financial advice from experts online, where someone tells you just pay your 2-year-old $7,500 and max out their Roth IRA every year. We may end up doing things if we're following social media, or we're following Dave Ramsey, who says in retirement, put all your money in the S&P 500 and you take out 8%. There's a lot of people that are self-proclaimed gurus that if you follow their advice, just like if you follow Michael Scott's advice, you can end up in a much worse situation. So just because they've made a lot of money from their internet fame, or just because it sounds like they're really intelligent, doesn't mean that it's someone that you should be taking financial advice from. So meet with an expert, put together a good plan, make sure that that plan meets your comfort for risk, and you don't dump all your money into starting a new movie, and you can be better prepared and ready for retirement.
You mean we can't write off the jets and the G wagons and the Rolexes, Shaun? What do you
Oh,
mean? I thought that's why we have businesses.
only on Instagram. Only on Instagram is that good advice. A lot of the things I scroll through on there, when I see them, I'm just like, you're gonna end up in jail. Like that's just fraud. But we get calls from people all the time, like, I think I should do this, and there's a little bit more to it to make sure that you don't end up in jail. I don't want you to end up like the Chris Lees from that Nashville show or whatever it was, that ended up in jail because they were doing wire fraud and all that. So yes, be careful on who you listen to. Oftentimes, and we get advice from experts. They are not experts, but we often feel like just because they're wealthy that that's somebody I should follow, and that kind of greed can really get you into some trouble.
And I'd watch out for some of those social media posts that are like, do this and you'll hit big, or you're going to come into a ton of money. So one of the Michael isms that I would kind of refer to would be put a strategy behind, any large inheritance you get or big bonus. Don't just spend it on a whim. Make sure you have a strategy in place. Really prioritize some of those things that you need to get done first that make more sense. So don't go out and buy a new Tacova boots for all this big bonus that you got at the end of the year. Really pay off some of that high interest debt. Maybe your Roth IRA makes sense. Put some diversification into your retirement accounts. Maybe, hey, I have a car that is, I'm going to have to put some money into. prioritize some of those short-term and long-term goals before you go out and buy that, that boat or, whatever Instagram is telling you that you can get if you get into this kind of scheme. So,
or that
Yeah.
fancy plasma screen TV that he mounts on the wall.
That's like this big.
That's just it, Ryan. You got to treat yourself, right? As Michael Scott says, you got to treat yourself. And that's probably a big topic that everybody, myself included. I remember being a brand new lieutenant in Washington, D.C., got my first big paycheck, and the first thing I did went and bought a $900 plasma TV. So I, like Michael Scott, was probably guilty of it. However, it's those impulse buys that can lead up and be dangerous over time. So having a plan, marrying those up with a tracking app, Monarch is a great source. And always utilize the thinking of, hey, if I don't need to buy this, and you have 24 hours to take some thought and say, hey, do I really need to do this? Take that time, take that day to do it, and it'll avoid some of those impulse buys that can lead to danger down the road. And we're going through, the greatest wealth transformation in the history of the world, where 401ks and IRAs were started in the 70s. Those baby boomers are starting to pass away. So rather than pensions going back to the company, people have these large retirement accounts that will be passed down to their heirs. And if we say, hey, wow, I didn't realize I wasn't expecting this $500,000. Let me go buy this place in Florida. Because that is an emotional decision, right? Something that Michael Scott might do. We want to make sure that we've got our near-term and our long-term goals planned out, that, hey, those properties come with extra bills, more property taxes. And if we don't have a strategy in place to say, hey, this could happen, I don't want to necessarily plan for it, but I don't want to just treat myself and buy myself something really large when there's tax implications behind all of these things. And it could end up really kind of destroying your wealth when it should have been something that helped you.
Yeah, I think that's the overlooked thing, Shaun, that when people either get an inheritance, you inherit a IRA, so you have a beneficiary IRA, or you get a bonus. A lot of people don't think about the tax implications with that. One, are you paying income tax on that? Did you withhold enough from your bonus? So that's one thing that you got to have to think. You don't get $500,000, right? There's taxes owed on a lot of that most of the time.
Yeah. I heard a great saying just on that. It's wealth amplifies your habits, like both in the good and the bad, right? So if you inherit something and you have bad habits, then it's most likely you're not just going to like reshape everything in that moment. It's the habits you have before the wealth comes that makes a difference, and vice versa. If you have good habits, you'll probably have a good plan in place to know what to do with those funds when they come. So there, that's like sage advice. Let's go back into Michael Scottisms. So on the schemes, I know we talked about that a little bit, but the avoiding quick rich schemes and pyramid schemes, as those were as true when the show was filmed as they are today, as they were 20 years ago. There are constant things in front of us. Social media has kind of amplified it too. Ways to get rich quick, whether it's crypto pumps, or we survived the era of NFTs being traded at silly numbers. And
Pokemon
everything in
cards
between
now,
too.
Nick.
Pokemon cards, yeah. Legos, hey, all those things. But just making sure that you do your due diligence. Like I always invite our clients to send me whatever it is they think they're interested in, and I can do like a quick gut check. But I encourage you all to build up the tool set to just kind of quickly comb through, do a quick level of due diligence, and be able to most of the time just poke holes in all of these, fabulous ideas. So the other on that one too, the investments in magic kits that he that he bought to invest in himself as a future magician. So we do believe investing in yourself and your skills is a good thing, but just I'd say like reeling it in, if you do make an investment in yourself, like actually follow through on it and try to monetize it. And it's okay if it doesn't work, right? Like my wife is a great example of that. Actually, she out of college was figuring out what she wanted to do. She took extra classes for crime scene investigation to real estate, and ended up doing courses to become an interior designer. But it's like she didn't know what she wanted to do until she tried those things. So it's okay to try those things, but just don't go crazy about it and then forget about it is the other thing too. follow through.
Yeah, on the topic of investing in yourself and education, I think if you've watched The Office, one of the most memorable in a bad way, like secondhand embarrassment, most cringeworthy episode I've ever watched of TV is the Scott's Tots episode. So he promises to pay for all these kindergartners to go to college later on in life, and then they all turn 18 and show up asking for the money, and Michael's like, "Wait, I thought I had more time." So don't trust anyone else to pay for your children's college education. If that's important to you, take the time, invest in it, set up a 529 or a brokerage account, earmark those funds, and make sure you're actively saving for that goal and not just hoping that some Yahoo like Michael Scott's going to come out of nowhere and have magically saved a couple $1 million to pay for 30 kindergartners to go to college.
Such a good one. But I'll give Michael Scott some credit here to kind of round out the episode. So some good advice from Michael Scott is on the episode where they go through the big push for automation, and there's like the Dunder Mifflin Infinity website, and they're trying to automate all their things. And of course, there's a lot of chaos that happens in that episode leading up to this. But he rounds out saying, we should have humans answering the phones and not robots. And he picks up a phone and calls one of his competitors, and it's a automated system answering the phone. And then he calls his office, and a human answers the phone. It's like, they might not always be the cheapest, but the fact they layer in the human element there can make all the difference when you're doing business. And that's B2B with customers, clients, you name it. So that's some good stuff from Michael Scott there. We'll give him some grades. One shining thread of good advice from Michael Scott.
It's always a silver lining. All right, we're going to have to give this week to Nick. It's very clear he's a power office watcher. So as a fellow power office watcher, I'm going to say you are the winner. So go ahead and take it, Nick. Let's get your 60, maybe 30 to 60 second rant for this week.
Perfect. Yeah, so I guess diving into some of the chaos on that automated system episode, Michael Scott is laying his eyes, or just eyes straight down on the GPS, not watching where he's going in the car, and drives straight into a pond. And there's a lot to be said about that. I won't rant about self-driving cars, although that is coming very soon, 2026, the year of self-driving cars. But it's more just to be heads up, and it's good to use these automated systems to help guide your life, but also use your own thoughts and sensibilities, like take perspective into your surroundings. And when it comes to financial advice, like, you can follow a plan super rigorously, but it's good to take a step back and make sure that you're actually trending in the right direction, and you're not just so structured mechanically following something that you might be way off course on what you're actually trying to accomplish. So that's my rant there. But self-driving cars, that would have just changed the dynamic of that whole episode, right? So we'll see how maybe a new Office series comes out with robots everywhere. We'll see.
Michael definitely could have used a self-driving car, although he might have ended up like Jared in Silicon Valley and went across a tanker ship to China and woke up, a month later. But thanks for joining us for another week of Balance Your Wealth. We hope you've enjoyed this episode. It's been a little different, but we're trying to have some fun with it. So these are our take on the Michael Scottisms. Thanks for joining us.